including some checklists that we've come up with, and other guidance documents from our various departments. If you have any project-specific questions, please reach out after the presentations are done to the individuals that those may be better answered by. And if you do have a question that you believe will benefit the entire group, please raise your hand. This presentation is recorded, so if you raise your hand, Sullivan will bring the microphone to you so it can be heard on the video, and then we can answer your questions accordingly. So again, thank you for joining us, as our different departments will be given presentations about various aspects of the development process. Whether you're a seasoned developer or new to development, or a new designer, or even just a resident. We hope that this workshop is going to highlight changes and process improvements that provide valuable insights and practical tools to optimize your experience. So I'm going to start off with my building presentation first. This is going to be mainly focused on significant changes to the energy codes, specifically projects over 500 square feet of new development, whether it's an ADU or a new house. And so we'll jump right in and get started. Thanks. Okay. Give me 1 second. So significant changes to the energy codes establishes electric ready requirements for new homes and ADUs. This includes heat pumps for not only water heating but space conditioning. Your cooktops, clothes dryers, and energy storage system ready requirements are involved in this, and we'll get into this. If you're building a new ADU or residence, you're required to have dedicated breakers in the main panel, specifically for your heat pump, for space heating, electric cooktops, electric clothes dryers, as well as your water heating system. This is significant because, one, if you're doing a new ADU and your current panel isn't a minimum 225 amp bus bar rating, most likely you will be required to upgrade that panel. That panel will trigger the electrical underground requirement, which I'll get into in a moment. But this is the biggest portion of the electric ready requirements. If you look at this diagram, you have your minimum service panel. You'll need to provide space for a transfer switch, also additional space for a backup load sub panel, which requires dedicated circuits for your refrigerator, a front door light, a receptacle in one of the bedrooms, and then you have an optional fourth circuit that you would dedicate to whatever you choose. You'll also have to install the raceway for the energy storage system, your backup battery. Backup battery isn't required upon building the project, but you do have to dedicate that space for this. The main reason I'm bringing all this up is when you're planning your project, you have to think logistically between setbacks, window locations, because of the required setbacks for your future energy storage systems or any of the equipment that's installed on the property. It could really affect how you design that project. And if it's not, if you don't have the foresight, it could result in delays in the project if revisions have to be submitted. And we're all trying to get these projects to completion as soon as possible. Some of the indoor air quality ventilation requirements, these are newer, and this table shows you some of the requirements. At the very least, in a kitchen, if you don't have a kitchen hood, you need a minimum 300 CFM ventilation fan, if that's not a kitchen hood. This next diagram shows you, depending on your dwelling unit square footage, whether you have an electric range or a gas range, the minimum CFM or capture efficiency requirements required by the code. So I wanted to talk about the changes. This has been, there was a change in the municipal code. This has been in effect over a year, but I did want to cover this because it more clearly defines the definition for demolition. Previously in the past, if you're in the county, lineal wall calculations were typically calculated by the framing that's removed. I just want everybody to be aware that when we're looking at plan checks, we do the linear wall calculation by the percentage of sheetrock that is removed. Typically, if you're removing over 50% of the sheetrock in the house, you can expect the sprinkler requirement to kick in if the residence isn't already fire sprinklered. I'm bringing this up just so people are aware of this, because we don't want to get into the project and then cross that 50% threshold, and then we have to submit a revision or start the plans for fire sprinklers, which can significantly delay that project. I just wanted to bring up one anecdote that typically comes up, I've heard from homeowners in town as well, is apparently a lot of insurance companies will not insure a residence if it doesn't have fire sprinklers, which aside from the life safety positive impacts, could definitely impact the homeowner's pocketbook as well as far as fire insurance. There's also a change that's been in effect for over a year in the municipal code for the electrical undergrounding requirements. Really, the only change is that the $200,000 threshold that requires the electrical undergrounding. For example, the whole code is not in here. There's a couple exceptions, but if you have a project and it's under $200,000, let's say you're gonna do a kitchen or bath remodel and you upgrade that electrical panel. If that house is sold and the new homeowners decide that they wanna do a more expansive project, or even in cases I've seen that the new homeowners don't like the new kitchen and new bathroom, so they rip those out and redo those. If the panel has already been changed in the previous 5 years, if that kitchen bath remodel crosses the $200,000 threshold, retroactively, if that main electrical service isn't already underground, it will be required to go underground at that point. Does that seem pretty clear to everybody? Okay. So because we've been having a lot of storms lately, and this has become an annual thing, with trees coming down and getting storm damage repaired. We're trying to expedite these so that we can get homeowners back into their homes if they have to leave because of damage to the houses. These are the minimum requirements just to get a permit issued so that we can start getting homeowners in the process of being able to rebuild and get back in. So at the minimum, you need a site plan, basically with the not a specific floor plan, but at the very least the outline of the house. If you have some structural damage or damage to a specific wall, we're just trying to identify that wall or the roof area, whatever it may be, that's damaged. And obviously providing photos always helps. That way we can get a exploratory demo permit issued. In that process, before things are covered up or whatever's opened up, before we get to the time of rebuilding, we want to have the inspector out just to see the extent of the damage. Engineering may be required. That's a case-by-case basis. But at the end of the day, we want to have the inspector out to see the extent of the damage before we start doing the repairs. For these storm damage permits, only in-kind repair work for like to put everything as it was before. If the homeowners decide, okay, we now have an opportunity and we want to start adding a second story or doing an addition on top of fixing the damaged areas, that's going to be processed like any other permit, and that's going to get kicked over for planning review before building permits issued. Because we do have the permit files available on our GIS map, which Evan will be going over, it may be possible to use previously designed plans as long as we have written permission from the original designer. If we do not have that, we won't be able to accept those plans as permit plans to rebuild the work in kind. On our website, we now have this site plan template, and when you pull this up, it'll be a blank site plan template, and you can print this out and you can use this to submit the site plan. On the back side of that template is the example site plan that you can use just to get the minimum requirements in so we can get a permit issued. Okay, now I just want to quickly go over some of the checklists that we now have available and we upgraded, and I have to give a lot of credit to Dwayne. He did the heavy lifting on these, but I can show you an example. And I'll just do the one, but we have, we have a checklist. You go through, make sure all the minimum plan submittal requirements are done. Obviously, every job is specific, so not all the items on the checklist may be required. You can check with us. You can give us a call at the building department to see if there's something that's not applicable. If you know that it's not applicable, just simply check it and put NA on the box, whatever works best in that zone. So if you can't see the 11 currently new checklists we have residential and commercial minimum requirements, kitchen and bath remodels, solar plan requirements, electric storage requirements, electric vehicles, generators, I know are a big one. On the generator checklist, if you have every requirement checked off, that should really expedite the process and get your generator, backup generator submittal approved quicker, which I know a lot of homeowners will be very happy about. And then we have attached and detached ADU plan requirements. Again, specifically, these are generally for 500 square feet or over. So just keep that in mind, and if you have questions in the future, you can just check with us at the building department on that end. And at this point, I'm done with my part. I'm gonna bring my inspector, Dwayne Dauphiné, up, and he is gonna go over common corrections during inspections.
Before we get to that section, I just want to check, does anybody have any questions about the content that we just went over? Either anybody here in the room or if anybody is raising their hand on Zoom.
My name is Jerry Stepanek, local general contractor. I work closely with PG&E, and all of these electrical requirements will require better grid. Mike Valencia, we spoke about it extensively in some locations, that the transformers would not cover all of this. Is there any plan to start with the grid and then follow with these requirements? Thank you.
So the question again was working with PG&E for better rates or for better timing through them?
No, for availability of the power.
For power availability?
The transformers and the grid is not designed for all of these requirements.
So speaking with my inspector Dwayne, and he may be able to elaborate on this a little better, what we found anecdotally is that the best way to at least have PG&E start looking into at whether they have the infrastructure or not, as is during the planning process. If there's a design study involved, it seems to make the process go faster than your typical 18 months. Once a building permit is issued, you can kind of get ahead of that once your design study plans are approved. And if you take the plans and get the engineering in to PG&E for that, if there's any issues regarding power supply, they can be addressed sooner than later. You're welcome.
Thank you. Al Saroyan. I was unclear on the underground requirement. If you just are upgrading your panel and not spending over $200,000, do you still have to go underground?
No. If you have a project and the entire valuation of all the permits pulled within the previous 5 years don't exceed the $200,000 threshold, a panel upgrade by itself, let's say, does not trigger the underground requirement.
Okay, that was my question. Thank you.
This is an easy one. What is the minimum square footage for a detached ADU? Or is there?
That is a good question. I I should know that, Thomas. I believe it's 220 square feet, and that's considered an efficiency dwelling unit. But let me double check that and verify that with you.
Tramel's correct. It's whatever the minimum is for an efficiency unit. So my understanding is it was 150. That's the number I've seen thrown around, but the state law says whatever the minimum is for excuse me, an efficiency unit.
Does the city have an adopted number for an efficiency
We do not have an adopted number, so it would defer to the building code.
Thomas, I'll have the answer before the end of our workshop, just so everybody knows.
And there was historically a tree exception for undergrounding. If there are too many trees and we cannot safely underground without jeopardizing them, is that still in place?
That exception still still exists, and that is still in the municipal code. The city forester and the inspector would go out together and make that determination.
Perfect, thank you.
Anatoly Astritsov. Germal, you in the beginning you said that most of the new requirements will be applied to new construction. Very often, planning department decides a new construction even for a partial demolition homes. If this is the case, will you apply new energy code requirements to partial demolition, which is determined as new construction by planning department, in particular solar panels requirements?
I think that would depend on a case-by-case basis. If we're talking about from a planning aspect is considered new construction, I would say on an existing home, the energy code does not require solar panels to be installed on a remodeled house.
Thank you.
And I do understand there is that fine line between a planning definition for new construction and building. But at this point in time, I'd be comfortable saying no, that would not be considered. But I should really look into that and verify whether our policies should line up or not. But thank you for the question. That's something we'll look into.
Thank you.
Any other questions in-house? Do we have any questions online, Sullivan? Do we know? Or are we going to save that for the end?
It doesn't look like it.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. And here's my inspector, Dwayne.
Thank you. What we've attempted to do here is put together a handful of slides that address the commonly missed inspections, reasons for correction notices, and or corrections on the job. So I'll take a few minutes here to go through them quickly. If you have questions, happy to address them after each slide as you see fit. We'll start off with the miscellaneous list here. Approved plans and or permit not on site. I think that's an important one. The plans need to be on the site. They're the roadmap to the project, so we would expect to see that. And the permit is the documentation to verify who's been there on site. Oftentimes, I'm not the only inspector that you have on site, and the permit card helps keep track of that while we're in the field. Construction revisions without proper department approval. Sometimes we have people, change gable end to hip, or change windows, or make kind of revisions that are driven from the owner's wants and needs, and we need to be included in that conversation as you go along. So I see that kind of as a hiccup for some people. Inspection requests without the required department approval. For example, rough framing inspection requires the fire department to be involved prior to my inspection. Planning is another department approval that we need to have at the rough phase, and I think that's a little different than a lot of departments. We like to get our eyes on the project as it's being constructed to see if we do have any of those kind of hiccup issues that we were talking about. Foundation, and there's some typos here, apologize for that. Foundation roof framing inspections without the proper roof height or setback verification. Obviously, we need to make sure we're building the buildings at the correct height and within the setbacks and or not on the neighbor's lot or something silly like that. Site BMPs, which is your erosion controls and your stockpiles, and the sites get torn up during construction, especially during winters like we've been having. It's important to keep the materials from leaving your lot and ending up in the storm drains. So environmental will have a few more things to say about that, I'm sure. And abandoned material left in place, so things like old gas piping or knob and tube wiring, or just duct work, stuff that when you're doing a project, you need to remove those items. Believe it or not, it's technically part of the building code. Framing inspections, missed or incomplete hardware not secured. We've got to make sure all the earthquake retrofit and or hardware stuff is in place during inspection. Nuts on hardware, bolts on hardware, so forth. Incomplete or improper installation of the fire-rated assemblies. The lots are close, are small, the houses are close together. We have some reduced setback situations that the fire and building code can mitigate, but there's certain assemblies that need to be kind of constructed right, and we need to see those during certain times of and a lot of times that stuff's not done the way it's drawn on the plans. Rodent protection, rats and other rodents, you don't want to having them going into your new building. And I see people using spray foam as a means to keep rodents out, and that is not an acceptable means. It's more like popcorn for them. Separation and supportive materials, where you have one material stacked on top of another, The materials are supposed to be independently supported and free and clear of each other. Overnotched or overboard framing, that means if you have like plumbing ductwork, stuff where it's going through load-bearing walls or exterior walls, and you've got huge holes drilled in them, they need to be mended together after you're done with your mechanical, electrical, plumbing work. And there are approved ways of doing that, and or if it's in a shear wall, your engineer needs to get involved if you're going to be notching out the plates. What's next? Electrical inspections. Smoke and carbon monoxide alarms, missing or not in the proper location. I think we have a really, that is probably the most common reason I cannot final building, because it doesn't have smoke and carbon monoxide alarms in it. It's 3 out of 10 houses. That's not good. 30% of the inspections are failing because of not having smoke alarms. I really ask we do better than that. So everybody, when you're out there, even if you're designing or you're not, it may not be your job necessarily, but if you see smoke alarms missing, point it out to the people, remind them. GFCIs, that's a shock hazard plug, are missing or redundant, and we check those at the final inspection. It's a shock hazard thing, and a lot of times those are not functioning properly or redundant. Grounding of bonding at gas, hot and cold water, that's kind of an electrician's discussion. If you want to have that, we can. Electrical panel not labeled, improper, incompatible breakers, missing some of the important equipment in the panel itself. So these are easy items to identify before your inspector gets there to make sure things are up to speed and you can pass your inspection. Solar and ESS, energy storage systems. Do we have any solar designers or energy storage people here? These are important things. Maybe if you have someone doing this work to your house, take a look at this list. These are newer requirements that are commonly being missed out there. It's kind of in the weeds, and happy to discuss it. Mechanical inspections, missing emergency overflow under a unit, like a hot water heater or a forced hot air system in an attic. The units the high efficacy units actually create sweat, and you got to get that condensate, that sweat out of the unit and out of the building properly. A lot of times that's not done right or missing. Improper water heating, venting required through roof, and or 10 feet from the property line. Again, the houses are close together. If you're venting a water heater out of your garage, it should not be aimed at the neighbor's bedroom window. That's sometimes tough to do because of the constraints in the lot size in the building. It unfortunately sometimes requires you to open up more of the building to get the ducting through the roof. But we really do need to see that. Ducting of interior environment fans, stuff like your range or your bathroom fans, not ducted out through the building at the time of inspection. Missing or improper materials used for ductwork support, ductwork in contact with the earth. A little while ago, they made a change to the mechanical code. A lot of times you'll see metal strapping used on the ductwork. It's no longer allowed. It's supposed to be this nylon or other type of material you can use. The old metal strapping, not only is it dangerous for the workers, it's proven to rip the ductwork and then it becomes ineffective. Plumbing inspection, gas pressure test. The gauge is the incorrect PSI, needs a right size gauge. Damaged gauges or the test pressure not set prior to inspection. Gas pressure, a gas leak obviously is something we can't have. This is a big one for me, and the gas pressure tests seem to be, we could be doing better with those. ABS, not under hydrostatic tests. That means your plastic piping in the building, the waste and vent system has to be actually water tested before we can approve it so that we know that it does not leak. Missing nail plates or protection for piping and wiring, and the dishwasher air gap. I think that's kind of a one I go around and around with folks in the dishwasher air gap, and I hear a lot of times the manufacturer allows it. The IAMO plumbing code differs from that and does require, and the way we interpret this is the building code says that if there is a conflict in the code, that the more restrictive measure prevails. So that's why we ask you to do the dishwasher air gaps. I know a lot of homeowners don't like the extra stuff on their countertops, but this is how we've been enforcing it. Questions?
Yes, you mentioned the 10-foot setback for water heater vents. I would assume furnaces fall in the same category?
So it's based off of a type B, a category B vent. So there are a couple different types of vents, but mostly what we're seeing is this category. And I would say that that's a broad statement, but 80% or more we're looking at have this.
How about the 90% PVC vents for furnaces and water? Does that have to be 10 feet
Yes.
from the property as well?
Yep.
Thank you.
Or above the roof, or above the roof line. Sorry, Al.
But if it's above the roof.
You can be within the 10 feet if you're up through the roof line. Jerry?
The dishwashers, the county, it's now Monterey County allowing Bosch and Miele to go only with the loop.
Yeah, again, this is where I've also heard this again and again, kind of as I'm doing the final inspections, and I've been leaning on the more restrictive measure with the air gap, even though the manufacturer says they don't need it. It's something that I really do wish gets clarified, hopefully in one of these next code cycles.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
All right. Next, who do we have next? Oh, all right. Next will be the Public Works, Rob Culver, talk about encroachments.
Do you have our slides up there? Good morning, I'm Rob Culver, Public Works Superintendent, and I'll be briefly going over the encroachment permit process. Yeah, okay. In the Public Works Department, we cover streets, encroachment permits. Our forester does the tree permit process, and Mary will talk about the environmental permitting. An encroachment permit will be needed for any proposed work in the city right-of-way, which is the residential property line out into the street. That would include trenching for new utilities, bell holes for sewer lateral replacements, driveway apron replacements, or the placement of a pod in the right-of-way. And this is a screenshot of where you can find the encroachment permit application on our city website. You just search encroachments and it pops right up. Some of the requirements are a detailed description, site plan, and traffic control plan, and either a site plan or photos showing where your exact location and dimensions of your excavation will be. And this is a good example of a traffic control plan that will be needed for any partial or full road closures. Let's see, that's 4 streets. And we do require that you give us 48 hours notice of your start date so we can make sure there's no conflicts with any other projects or events happening in the area. An 811 or USA ticket is required, and we have handouts on the desk with the 811 requirements. And then for a final inspection, request that you email me for a final inspection once everything is complete in the right-of-way. Wood chips covering bare dirt, your paving complete, and the removal of any tree protection. The permanent encroachment permits require a little longer review that's done by our directors and the planning department, so that's a little longer of a review process, but it usually works out pretty smooth. I think that's about it. If there's any questions on encroachments. Okay, and then I'll hand it over to Justin, who will talk about tree permitting.
Hi everybody, I'm Justin Ono, the City Forester. So I just want to go over some stuff in terms of the permit process with trees and development, how we're trying to separate that from regular nuisance or hazard trees or dead trees, just trying to tie them into the building and trying to keep everything clean. And then landscape plans, a brief overview of the most important tree protection measures, and just, when and how to, call out for inspections. So this happened, a month ago, Sullivan? About a month ago, we just overhauled the tree permit application. So the biggest part here that I want to focus on is that we added a part that's saying, is it for construction or not? And if it is, tie this to the design study or the permit ID so we can really keep track of everything, of why the trees are coming out. And who's what? If you have other trees, like dead trees that you're worried about, they'll usually we'll during the process we'll have the pre-site inspection with me, the forester, the planner, and usually the architect or somebody, and we'll try to call them, like figure out what's wrong with the trees when we're there. I really would prefer to have 2 applications, one for removal with construction, and then one for any other reason, just because the one for construction is really going to be, the approval is going to be contingent on a building permit. So I don't want dead trees to hold up the building permit process. So that's why this is a really nice part of the new application. And then some of the things I've been seeing in the last 8 months since I started, I just want to talk to the architects and the designers as we're going into the process, just to try to really focus on the grading and the shoring, and just to take into account trees for your over excavation, just so they're not digging and realizing that there's going to be a wall or a cut, through or past a tree, and just to try to apply for it up front, or just kind of think about it up front, just so we're not digging and realizing we have to take out a tree mid-project. So then I didn't put the whole tree protection section from the code, but these are the most important ones I want to talk about. So prior to construction, the forester, me, will meet with we'll have the pre-site inspection, the tree should be inventoried, and then we'll have a condition and a significance given out for, hopefully, that you can take that to design around and taking them into account during the design process. It's not a requirement, but I've trying to push for a third-party arborist assessment, so someone that can keep eyes on it throughout the project, because I look at it at the beginning and sometimes I don't look at it all the way until the end, and it would really help kind of smooth some things over to have a consultant retained or something. And then just anytime something's damaged, or if you find roots approaching or over 2 inches, just give me a call, send me some pictures so we can figure out what to do and how to remedy that, whether they can be cut clean, or if we need to revisit the tree's viability. Really, the code calls for 2x4s on the trees, which has been kind of the Carmel way for a really long time. But as these projects get bigger and more expansive, if there's room, I know it's not possible with how small these lots are. If there's room, I really would prefer to have some tree protection fencing, just so things aren't stacked around the bases of the trees and to avoid compaction of the roots. And we'll take a look at that as project by project to see what it requires. And those should stay up throughout the whole project. And if you're building a fence, the orange fencing, it works. With the T-bar, I prefer a 2x4 frame. But if you don't want to go through that, I know how much lumber costs right now. The bars, and if you could put a thick nylon strap cord through the top, just so it won't sag. Because if these go in through summer and that heat hits those fences, they just sag and almost just disappear. And really, just want to hammer that, the owner is responsible for the trees ultimately. So we want to make sure that nothing gets damaged, because if it goes really sideways and trees end up getting really neglected and damaged, then that can be a suspension of the building permit through the red tag process. For landscape plans, am just kind of really just making sure that it fits in with the character of the city and that it's not extremely invasive. I'm not counting sprinkler heads. I just want to make sure that it makes sense and works. And then I'll go over that with the final inspection when we get to the end of the project. Shoot me an email or give me a call so I can come out and final the project. I think that was everything. If Sullivan, you've got something to touch on about the permitting process.
Yeah, so I just wanted to put out an announcement for everybody here, and it's going to go out in the Friday letter for those who are receiving that. The forestry and tree removal permitting process will no longer be handled at the planning and building counter effective, I believe, March 25th. We are going to be routing those up through the Public Works Department and Forestry. They're going to be handling the receival, routing, and processing. So you won't be coming to our counter here down at City Hall to apply for those anymore, but instead be going up either to the Public Works Department or applying online. And more information will be made available again through the Friday letter, both this week and next. We will have a little bit of a grace period where we will accept those here, but ultimately they'll end up with the Public Works.
Does everyone know where Public Works is? Okay, just checking.
Public Works Department is on Junipero between 4th and 5th on the east side. It is the building right before the police department. And again, that information will be published in the Friday letter and the following announcements.
Any questions on trees?
If you're doing some exterior work like hardscape or deck or patio, but the landscape is going to remain the same, do you still need to provide a landscape plan, or can you state that it'll be the same to remain?
No, that's just landscape plans are if you're going to do a landscape renovation.
And then if you're going to do just maybe in the front of the house, like a small area where there's going to be landscape, but the back is remain the same, can you just show the front area on the landscape plan, or do you need to show the entire site?
Just for what's going to get done.
Okay.
So, and that includes any landscaping in the right of way. We need a landscape plan to go over that, because that's technically city has the purview of everything in the right of way. So if you do any work in the right of way, or it's just always better to do it. And for the smaller jobs like that, you don't need a survey and a landscape architect. If you can have a site plan and have someone plug in, relatively where the plants are going to go, that should be fine.
Okay, thank you.
Sullivan, can I expand on Justin's response? Sometimes with landscape plans, we see site coverage changes as well, though. So if you are doing site coverage in addition to landscaping, then we might ask for a little bit more than just the plants. So if you are moving around site coverage and doing patios or decks or walkways, things like that, then yes, we might ask for a full site plan.
Since you crossed to the other side and your father retired, could you publish a list of approved arborists?
Yeah, I'm working on that now to make an approved list of arborists.
Good, thank you.
Any other forestry-related questions? Okay, we're going to get into environmental next, but before we do that, we are going to take a 10-minute break. Lunch is available in the back, and please feel free to ask any of us if you have any project-specific questions.
All right, thanks,
We are going to try to get the workshop started again within the next 5 minutes or so. All right, everybody, we want to get moving here and keep our workshop going. A couple notes I failed to mention at the beginning. If anybody needs a business card from any of our city staff, there are stacks of business cards up here you can help yourself to. We had the previous question regarding the smallest square footage for an efficiency dwelling unit. It used to be 220 square feet. In the 2022 building codes, they have allowed that to be reduced to 190 square feet for an efficiency dwelling unit. So I wanted to get that answer out there for everybody. Next, I'm going to introduce Mary Bilsey from our Environmental Management Division.
Okay. Hi, I'm Mary Bilsey. I'm the Environmental Programs Manager with the city. And there have been significant changes in the federal, state, and the regional stormwater laws. And the city updated our stormwater ordinance at the end of last year to be in compliance with those applicable laws. The purpose of those laws are to enhance the water quality and of the water courses and the water bodies by reducing pollutants in the stormwater discharges into the storm drain system. And also the purpose is to enhance the coastal waters in the city in accordance with the policies and of the city's local coastal program and the post-construction stormwater management requirements. The city is, everything flows down to Carmel Beach or to Carmel River State Beach if you're up near Mission Trails Nature Preserve. And the city is in an area of special biological significance and also within the Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary. The cities of Carmel and Monterey and Delray Oaks, Seaside, Pacific Grove, and the county have joined forces together to implement a regional stormwater quality program for the peninsula and surrounding areas. The group meets monthly to discuss the stormwater and urban runoff issues in compliance with our MS4 permit. The group is called the Monterey Regional Stormwater Management Program, or it's referred to as Mr. Swimp. But the first rule of the stormwater quality protection is nothing but rain down the storm drain. The city has a reference guide up at the front that if you're interested, it's just something for homeowners to show how to implement different strategies of increasing infiltration onto your site. Okay, so during construction, designers are required to prepare erosion and sediment control plans, as well as implement best management practices. And the best management practices, I think pretty much in every plan set that I review, most people include this page in their plan set, and you're probably all familiar with it. But it's basically to implement BMPs from materials and waste management, equipment management and spill control, earthwork and contaminated soils, planting and paint material, and dewatering. That's just a couple examples. The cities will prepare or will schedule pre and post construction meetings to ensure compliance with these plans and also to inspect project sites during construction as well as during big storm events. With that, I'll pass it over to Javier, and he's going to go over low impact development standards, and at the end we can answer any questions you may have.
Good evening. My name is Javier Hernandez. I'm the city's project manager, and really what I want to bring into focus is as development or expansions of properties or any kind of impervious development is happening to your property, we really want to point you towards the design guidance or operating guidance 17-07, which outlines where it triggers site development standards. One thing to point out is this is all pertaining to stormwater and how you should mitigate your stormwater that's on site or falls on site before it exits and enters the public right-of-ways, streams, and eventually into the ocean. So if your project or expansion is under 500 feet, meets slopes under 7%, and its soil groups classification A or B, which Evan from our planning department will go into a little more detail via the GIS. But if it's under that square footage, then it really doesn't trigger any stormwater requirements. All we ask is that you do due diligence and you do maintain it at every attempt to maintain it on site. Now, if you're over 500 square feet and below 1,200 square feet, again, the same parameters. We do ask that you keep it on site via rain gardens, different measures as far as site grading, vegetated swales. Anything over 1,200 square feet, is going to require some engineering. So if you're doing an impervious development that's going to trigger that, you're probably going to end up hiring a civil engineer. With that being said, as Mary alluded to, we will be doing a pre and post inspections. As part of the post inspection, the stormwater features that usually go are infiltration trenches, and those will get your engineer sign off on them as well. So Dwayne will be involved in that process. So even though it's exclusively, not exclusively requirement of city, but public works, but we do work as a group and we get called out to different sites. So you might see any one of us when you call them for one of these inspections. And I think that kind of covers all as far as stormwater. If there's any questions pertaining to stormwater as development goes, I guess now's the time to ask them. We're good? Oh, and sorry, here's our contact information. Again, we have business cards up at the front, but if you just want to snap a picture of that, we're open for any questions. We're usually available between 8 and 5 any day.
And I just want to let everyone know that this is being recorded both for Zoom and for YouTube. So if you have any questions or need to see the information, it'll be available on our website. Additionally, we'll make all these handouts and the presentation available on our website as well.
Hi, my name's Catherine. I'm one of the planners. And since we're talking about stormwater, I thought I'd go a little bit out of order on the agenda. But as Mary and Javier mentioned, Carmel Bay is part of an area of special biological significance. And so in the fall of 2022, the city received the results of a 5-year study showing elevated levels of copper in the bay, toxic to the fish and other aquatic life. So it turns out that the samples that were taken in the gutters and downspouts showed the highest levels of copper. So we've since ceased approvals of the use of architectural copper for water conveying elements like coppers and downspouts, but non-water conveying elements like flashing or chimney shrouds are still permitted. And I thought it was interesting. I just learned the other day that Palo Alto has banned architectural copper since 2003. So we're not the first city to do this. And we are encouraging alternatives like bronze powder-coated extruded aluminum or painted or coated stainless steel for copper gutters. And we're definitely encouraging you to bring us samples so we can see what most closely mimics copper. And we have had projects go to the Historic Resources Board requesting the use of copper for continuity with what's there, but the Historic Resources Board, in this case, is prioritizing the environmental concerns over the aesthetics at this point. So, any questions? If not, I'll hand it over to my colleague Evan, who's going to talk about GIS.
Hello, everyone. My name is Evan. I'm with the planning department. Before I get into a little tutorial on our GIS system, I just want to give a brief update on where we stand with the ADUs. So a couple months ago, we had a workshop with the Planning Commission on a draft ordinance in respect to ADUs. If you didn't attend or were able to watch that, I highly recommend going back and watching our video, which is available on our YouTube channel. So coming out of that workshop, we had a few policy questions that came up, and our Planning Commission gave us some direction to get with HCD, which is the Department of Housing and Community Development, which is the state department who basically oversees the ADU program. So since then, we have met with HCD, and they were really supportive of our draft ordinance. they said, we have some corrections for you, but in theory, this seems like, something we can work with you on, as well as the Coastal Commission. So our next steps are to take the feedback that they give us, revise the ordinance, and then we're going to meet with HCD, the Coastal Commission, and then us internally to basically work out the outstanding issues of our ordinance. But it does seem like we do have support for our draft ordinance that we prepared at the workshop with the Planning Commission a few months back. So things are progressing and are going forward in a very positive manner. So going to the GIS map. So GIS stands for Geographic Information Systems. It's basically a visual way of spatially managing data. So there are a number of ways that we can get to this map. It's plastered all over our website, but the easiest way to get there is just to navigate to our homepage. And in the top right, there's a search bar. You can just type GIS. And then the one I like to click is this one with the little picture of the map right there, and that will take you right to the map, and you won't have to click any additional links. If anyone has any questions about the map or has any suggestions, my contact information is right here on this little pop-up disclaimer. Once you have all read this, you can just click anywhere and that will go away. And that will take you right to this homepage, or our base map. I'm just gonna click off each of these layers and you'll start to see this information disappear as I do this. And over here, we have a bunch of really useful tools. This is everything that we can have appear on the map. Let's say you don't like looking at this image, you can change the base map to something else. This is a topographic map. That's back to the high resolution imagery. Maybe you just want something that looks a little more simple. Maybe you accidentally scroll all the way over here. If you just click this little 4 arrows, they'll take you right back to where you started. So I'm just gonna turn on a few of our simple layers. Actually, I'll just do this for now. So here, this is just a very simple outline. It's just our parcel map. Zoning's turned off, but I'll give you maybe just a little overview of something that maybe you haven't seen before. This is a topographic map. It's shown at 5-foot contours. Maybe you're meeting early with a client on a project. They don't really know what they want to do. They don't have a survey yet, and maybe this is their, I'll look for a better one. This is their property. You can see that, they have 5, 10, about 15 feet of slope on their property running east to west. We wouldn't use this in lieu of a survey. If you ever submit plans, we would absolutely need a survey. But you can use these contours as a rough starting point to help you develop an early concept for a project before you have them engage in getting a survey, something like that. We also have that, so that's 5 feet. We also have 10 feet and 20-foot intervals. We also have our zoning layer. So this is the official zoning map of the city, as well as all of our overlay districts. So I'm just going through, turning on all of our overlays. And let's say I have a project somewhere down on Scenic. I'm just gonna click this random parcel. This little box will pop up and it will give me all of the information on this property. It gives me what the zoning is. So it gives me the APN, the legal description, the base zoning, all the overlays. So this is in the archaeological overlay, the beach overlay. It gives me the soil type. So if you have that handout that says SOG 1707, private stormwater something, I'm blanking on what it's called. But you can see that it's in soil group A. So that's what Javier was referring to. Whether you need the engineered drainage or not. And then also if you are in a flood hazard area. This one isn't a great example. Well, I guess we have one more overlay that would be important to know about, which is our very high fire hazard severity zone. So if I turn this one on and off, you can see this one is not in the very high fire hazard zone, but we have properties up here that are, as well as over on the east side of town. But if it were in that fire hazard zone, we'd have an additional notification down here. You can hit this little printer here, and you can have this little parcel report basically printed that you can include in your plans if you wanted to. And let's say you've never done a project in these overlays. You can click this link and it'll take you right to the zoning code section where you can see all the information on that project. Going back to the map, and then really the bread and butter of our map here is under property files. So any property in the city, you can just click it. You're going to get this same results field down here. I think there I accidentally clicked multiple properties. But I'm going to go ahead and click City Hall. And you can also search by APN in the top if you know your APN, but I'm just navigating by clicking on the property that I want. I can click to view property files, and this will take me to our document repository. So if you remember back a couple years ago, we had filing cabinets upon filing cabinets upon filing cabinets of physical files back in our office, and you can come in, you can request the property file, sit down and go through just stacks of paper. Those are all scanned now and digital. So I just click that link, and I don't think that's City Hall, but I can still use this one. So for whatever property I just clicked, this is that scanned property file. And the really cool thing about this is it's keyword searchable. So if I just do a Control F, I can search for let's try permit. And so it just came up with 47 matches for the word permit. And I can just go through and hits it every time. And then even what I think is even cooler is it recognizes handwritten text. So we have mission written here. If I search mission, it was able to find out mission. So if you're looking for something specific in one of these property files, you should be able to pick up text or handwritten text as well as printed text. And then, so documents and records are generally the permits and anything on like 8.5 by 11, and then large plans and would be like a larger plans and older blueprints. Like Jermel said earlier, we will accept these with the correct release. If you do go through the property files and reference plans, please do not copy them. Please make sure you have the correct release. We do have that disclaimer up at the top. So yeah, that concludes my little spiel. Yeah, Adam?
So at this point, are all the files that the city had in the archives, have they all been scanned?
Yes, so everything has been scanned. They are tied in by APN, and what we've been noticing is sometimes APNs have been changed over time. So if you click the map, it will be a newer APN, which is sometimes different from the old APN that's referenced on the property file. So if you click a property and it says no results found, just let us know, and we can go back and reference what the old APN was and update it to have it show up on the map.
Great. Yeah, that was my follow-up question. So if there is a property, you've clicked on the map, it doesn't show results, we can let you know, or we can also type in maybe if we have a reference of a previous APN, we can type that into the search bar.
That's what we would need to do. We need to make that fix to make that connection.
Got it.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Any other questions? But GIS, ADUs?
Yeah.
Years ago, there was talk about locating all the trees in Carmel on the GIS. Has that been done?
I think Justin can maybe speak to that.
The city trees have, not on the GIS, we use a separate software called Tree Keeper, but we did, Davy Tree just completed their citywide inventory of trees.
And that's just in the right-of-way, correct?
Yes, and some parks, but mostly just the right-of-ways. So we're going to be making sure that that's, we're streamlining it to get for the public, so it's not editable, and we're going to put that on the website so you can see all of the city's 10,000 trees.
Great, but you can't reference them through this process, correct?
No.
It's a separate software. There would be too much on this. It's a different GIS through Davy Resource Group.
Yeah, we can see if there's a way that we'd be able to share that information, but it's not currently available right now.
Thank you.
We are always looking for ways to improve this map and this system. So if anyone has any ideas for things that would be useful information for your purposes, that'd be great. In the last session on Tuesday, someone had the suggestion of providing coordinates for each of the individual properties. So the question came up last session, do we have a way of doing addressing through this map? And the answer was no. And then someone suggested, well, what about coordinate systems? Can we find the coordinates for each of our individual properties? Because utilities often ask for coordinates as an alternative to the address. And coordinates are something that we could potentially do through a very, relatively simple addition to the map.
You had mentioned kind of the status and process of the ADU ordinance. I was wondering if you guys had like a targeted timeline for the ordinance?
I believe, I think we're trying to do it. I'm thinking back to our council strategy thing, and it's escaping me right now. So in terms of next steps, though, what we need to do is we need to bring it back to Planning Commission as well as City Council, and once we have their blessing, then it would have to go to Coastal Commission. So that's at least, probably a 6-month process or so.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I can't remember who's next. I think Marnie is next.
Well, good afternoon. My name is Marnie Waffle. I'm the principal planner here in our planning department. So my little presentation isn't going to be nearly as interesting as our GIS. I learn something new every time. Evan is at the helm and moving that mouse around. So what I'm going to talk about just very briefly is a portion of the planning process. So any substantial remodel, addition, or new construction does require Planning Commission approval. And so the planner, shepherds that project through the process. And upon approval of the project, our Planning Commission adopts this resolution. And embedded in the resolution are the conditions of approval for the project. So this is what's guiding the planner through review, both of the construction drawings for building permit as well as the inspections that we do. So what I wanted to do today is just really bring everybody's attention to these conditions of approval. We do ask that when construction plans are submitted to the building department for a building permit, that a copy of those conditions be included in the plan set. That makes sure that they are at the contractor's disposal all throughout construction. When the construction plans are submitted for a building permit, the planner is reviewing those plans as well. And we have this form called Revisions to Planning Approval. We recognize that things change between design development and construction drawings. And so what we ask you to do is that if there are any changes that affect the exterior of the building, that you note that on this form when submitting your construction drawings so that we can review them. We do have a standard condition now that talks about conflicts between the planning approval and the building permit, and the planning approval is going to govern. So if a change has been made and it wasn't disclosed and we weren't able to review and approve it, but it shows up on the construction drawings, we may not be able to honor that change. You may have to revert back to what was on the design development plans. When your construction drawings are ready for building permit issuance, we're asking you to fill out yet another form. And again, we really want you to be aware of the conditions of approval for your project. So on this form, we're asking both the property owner, the architect designer, as well as the contractor to read and sign this form. And really it's again to let you know that these conditions of approval exist, they're important, and we want you to be aware of them. So once your project goes under construction, the planning department's going to do at least 2 inspections. We're going to do a rough planning inspection, which is timed right about when you are calling for your rough building inspection. So the planner's going to come out, meet with the contractor, walk the site. We're going to look at all your window and door openings. We're going to look at the actual windows and doors that have been installed. I like to take that opportunity just to check in and see if the client has asked for any other changes. Common things are, they might want to add a skylight because a room is a little bit darker than they were anticipating, or they might have found a different light fixture for the exterior that they like better. So it's a really good time to check in with the planner and kind of talk about any other changes that have been made and give us an opportunity to review them before you order and install additional improvements. And then I guess just lastly, please use us as a resource. Or I guess the second inspection is the planning final. So once everything is all said and done, we come out a second time to do that final inspection. And again, we're referring back to these conditions of approval when we're doing our inspections. So we're checking to make sure that each of those have been adhered to. So with that, I think my last comment really is use us as a resource. We're a small department. Right now there are 3 planners, myself, Evan, and Catherine, who escaped. But when we're assigned a project, we see it through completion. So we're going to be your project planner all throughout construction. We'll be doing the final inspection. If you have any questions about any revisions, please don't hesitate to give us a call. We really want to help you get through that construction process without any hiccups at the end. So that is my spiel. Does anyone have any questions about any of that?
I sort of missed my opportunity with Catherine, but could you please clarify the copper usage on buildings? Does it apply also to remodels where we have existing building already established with copper gutters, downspouts, and all the sheet metal? Can we continue? And what about new construction? I missed what the limitations on usage of copper are, if you can clarify, please.
Sure.
Thank you.
So yeah, so even just someone coming in for a re-roof permit, if they're changing out the gutters and downspouts as part of that re-roof, they cannot be copper. If you're doing a remodel and you're not changing your gutters and downspouts, you've got copper, they're remaining intact, you're not changing them, that's fine. But as soon as you take them down, we are requiring that what goes back on the building is not copper.
Including all the sheet metal on the roof, like the valleys, crickets, and all of the other stuff?
No, those are exempt.
Okay.
So we're really focusing right now on the features that convey water. So that would be, you know, if someone proposed a copper roof, the gutters and the downspouts. So all your flashing, your, you know, chimney shrouds,
Right.
all of that can still be copper.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. With no other questions, we're going to have Daryl with the Carmel Area Wastewater District provide a presentation with his agency.
Good. Hello, my name is Daryl Lauer. I'm with the Carmel Area Wastewater District. We are a wastewater district. I'm going to do a little history right here. We were founded in 1908, so prior to the city. Usually when subdivisions, or in this case villages, go in, sewers go in first. So we have some very old infrastructure, which means homeowners also have some very old infrastructure as well. So our original name was the Carmel Sanitary District, and roughly about 32 is when we started a treatment process, and we have a treatment plant which is on the south side of the Carmel River, across from the ballpark over there on the other side of the river. See here, what we manage is we manage the second you flush the toilet and it leaves the building. Once it leaves the structure is where the Carmel Area Wastewater District takes over, not ownership, but jurisdiction of it. So we actually own the sewer lines in the street, and the homes or parcel owners, not parcel, sorry. The homeowners own the actual, or business owners own the actual lateral all the way to and the connection of the street, in the street. Very common, about 70% in the state of California is that way. The entire peninsula is that way as well. So let's see here. So we actually bleed in and out. We have our boundaries go mostly in the county, believe it or not. But we're top of the Carmel Hill, all the way down to Highlands, and all the way out to Quail, and soon further out the valley, if you guys have driven the Valley Road recently. So let's see here. So the reason why we have this private sewer lateral program, which is the contractors are here, we have aging infrastructure. We talked a little bit about that. Infiltration and inflow. So I want to do a little bit about that. Infiltration is when the ground's wet and you have holes, cracks, leaks, that water bleeds into the sewer lines. Inflow is when you have a direct connection from a rain gutter or some sort of man-made device that you're purposely putting rainwater into the sewer. So rainwater is a no-no into the sewer. A little example, this year, last month, we normally dry weather flows are about 1.1 million. we had over 4 million gallons coming into the sewer plant during the rains. So, and a few years back, we had at 1.8 million coming in during some of the large rain events. So that means we're treating rainwater, and that's not what we're designed to do. So part of this lateral replacement program is to cut back on the inflow and infiltration. So, and main reason is the pipes aren't designed to have that much flow coming into them. And then we get sanitary sewer overflows, which is a big no-no. So let's see here. What triggers private sewer lateral inspection? So close of escrow, change of ownership is has kind of been the leading one lately. Our board approved this in 2019, so it's been in effect ever since then. PG and Monterey have had this for a little while. So the change of ownership, a remodel of $50,000 or more, which is probably more applicable to the contractors here. And then also if a private lateral has overflowed to a street and is running down the street, we get the opportunity to have a camera put in there and see what's going on. Why did it overflow? So here's a few the requirements for a sewer lateral inspection. And again, what we're asking for is an inspection. Doesn't necessarily mean that you don't have the proper devices already there. So clean out with a sewer relief valve. A lot of you guys might see the Carmels. We have the old Carmel traps. Those are being taken out. A sewer relief valve is the little popper on top. A backwater device that prevents the sewer from the main line ever backing up into the house as well. And then again, we're looking for a maintenance-free 4-inch lateral line. So a couple materials that are not allowed anymore, or we're being asked to automatic, or our automatic failures is cast iron and Orangeburg pipe. Displaced joints, basically if you have offset joints really bad, that's allowing water in there, or future problems. Allows roots, so like the trees in Carmel, trees are a big problem for laterals as well. So, and then the interesting, a factory Y. So if you have a pipe that comes along right here, say the pipe's going down, a Y connection is where it comes in from the street and connects like that. It kind of looks like an upside down Y or a right side Y. I'll probably say a few of the connections that we've seen, the plumbers have done what's in the older days is called a hammer tap. They come in, they break a little hole there, put the pipe in, jam the pipe in there, big ball of concrete, and everybody's having problems. You know, fast forward 60 years, 70 years, 80 years, 100 years, where we're at right now. So basically have a licensed plumber go out and perform an inspection using a camera. The plumbers will submit the inspection report that can be found on our website. I apologize for not up there, but it's Carmel Area Wastewater District. If you want to go to our website, cawd.org, just type in Carmel Wastewater District, you'll find us. And then we'll review it. Ultimately, what you're looking for, and that includes the builders. We are on the City of Carmel's final permit. There's a box that says COD. You're looking for that right there, that certificate of compliance. That means you've had an inspection done and you meet the requirements. So, so we generally don't have jurisdiction inside of buildings except for one thing: food establishments, restaurants. So any drain that goes down must go through an interceptor or some sort of grease trap. So if you're doing restaurants, please, keep us in mind that we're going to be requiring grease interceptors or grease traps on any drains that go down the ground, prevent the grease from entering the sewer lines. So, and the last is, like you guys, we also have aging infrastructure, so we have some big projects coming up over the next few years here, replacing some sewer lines. So you're gonna see us out in the streets replacing sewer lines. So, any questions? We also love a good GIS as well, by the way. So really cool stuff. Thanks. Thank you, Daryl.
All right, my name's Sullivan. I'm our building permit technician here at the city. And just to wrap us up, I'm going to go through a couple of the online resources that we have, as well as briefly going over our online submittal process. Since we came back from COVID a couple of years ago, we have been making a concerted effort to reduce paper and reduce physical submissions as much as possible. In fact, we no longer take paper plans or physical plans here at our counter for submission. All of our submissions are required to either be done digitally through our website or via a CD or USB if you prefer to drop one off. So we're really encouraging people to use this system. We're trying to make it as easy, as user-friendly as possible. So I just wanted to go over it briefly with you, and I'll also go over some of the new handouts and informations we have on our website and where to find them. So for convenience, on our website, up at our top bar here, you have this option called I Want To. And if you want to submit a permit, schedule inspection, or pay your fees online, you can go down here to check this out. This has been made available for all permit types. So whether you're submitting a building permit application, a planning application, a permanent or temporary encroachment, or a tree permit application, you can find all that information here on our website. So I would greatly recommend you check it out. The system is fairly intuitive. When you click here to apply, there's going to be a number of boxes for you to complete that requests the same information that a building permit or planning application would request for a physical copy. So please fill this out, complete it. The more detail that we have, the better. We always like having additional information, even if you may consider it not relevant. It helps us really get a good scope on the project and understand what you're proposing. So please feel free, give us as much information as possible. Sometimes when we see remodel house as a project description, it really isn't clear what you're intending to do. So the more information, the better. Feel free, of course, as you're going through this, if you have any questions, you can come into our office or give us a call if you have any questions about the fields. Once you've gotten through this, you are presented with an option here to upload construction drawings. Construction drawings include anything from your structural calculations, your architectural plans, any supplemental forms such as your construction and demolition plan, fire sprinkler wall calculations, anything that you have, you can upload here. We do have a restriction that the file upload size be no more than 25 megabytes for any one file. So if you have large plans, you can either upload them in portions, or alternatively, we do file sharing through the Google Drive system. And if plans are not uploaded, they'll be requested from you after we receive your application. So however you choose to do that. The other option or other information that we have on our website is this great section for our community planning and building department. In our departments, we actually have separate divisions. Despite how closely we work together, we have planners in our planning division, we have our building staff in our building division, and then our code compliance division. So we make our information available for each of these, as we do have separate regulations that, as much as we like to overlaps, do sometimes conflict or present conflicting information. But you can find the information available here for all of our submittal requirements on our website. Applications and informational handouts. You have all sorts of different types of PDFs. You have the review checklists here that Jermel went over earlier, which we will be expecting to use and be signed by the designers who are submitting these plans. So please give these a look if you're designing any of these systems. We have guidance documents for different topics. We have supplemental or job aids. So we realize that we have quite a few restrictions, and there are a lot of regulations with the building process, but we try and make that information out there as much as possible. We put everything we can out. We make ourselves available for questions. So if there's ever anything that you can't find here on our website, please feel free to give us a call.
So I've got a car just begging for a traffic ticket out there. So,
well, please don't let us hold you up.
Nice presentation.
Take care. The other items I wanted to go over briefly on our website is when a permit is required. You probably get this question the most, or we get it the most. Do I need a permit for this? In Carmel, the answer is almost always yes. We are very strict, we acknowledge that, but again, we try and work with you as best we can. So on our planning and building webpage, we have created this section that says, when is a permit required? A permit required, like I said, is required most of the time. When is a planning permit required? Almost always. So this form you can give to homeowners who may be inquiring, whether that's for design services or for contracting. And we give on here a list of common construction types, whether it's single trade permits like your water heater or your electrical panel, whether it's things like storm damage and dry rot repair, ADUs, new homes. And we have linked as much as possible information into here in our guidance documents to try and hand that out. And it does give a broad overview. It does not cover every single project type, but this should give you a good idea of what you're looking at, whether you require a planning permit and a building permit, or either or both. And again, if it's not listed, feel free to contact our department. Our information for contact is available here. There is also a disclaimer. Some of these conditions may change if you are working with historic properties, and those you will need to consult directly with the planner on. The last item that I wanted to show off for our online system is not only can you submit an application through our website, you can do a status check. We get a lot of emails saying, hey, where's my project? Sometimes when you submit something, it feels like, I have no idea where it went. Is it in a black hole? We're trying to make sure you stay updated and keep on top of what's happening with your plans and project. So whether you've submitted a building, planning, tree, or encroachment, you can go onto our website here and do this search. This option is available for, like I said, at each project type, so that you can find out where your project is in status. There's a couple different ways that you can search for your project, whether you have the permit or the parcel number, and I'm going to bring up an example of one right now. And on here, you can do a few things. You can request an inspection if you're a contractor looking to schedule something. There is protections in here so that only the assigned contractor or assigned general contractor for the project can schedule inspections for a specific project. This prevents people from maybe scheduling for the incorrect project or scheduling for a different one. And then additionally, if you're just looking for a status check, you can view this. This is a dummy permit for our tests here, but you can see the number of information and fields that we make available here to people who are looking for a status update. So if you are interested and you need to know some more information about your project, I'd recommend you come here and just look for a status check. And of course, if you need more information, feel free to reach out to our office. That's all the information I had available for our presentation. So does anybody have any questions about submitting a permit, permit requirements, or status updates?
Requests for inspections, should we do it on your website or still by the phone call?
Either option are available. It's whatever's most convenient to you.
Okay.
They are scheduled in the same manner, still on a next day basis, as best we can accommodate.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Now, regardless of this presentation, does anybody have any questions for any of our presenters as a whole for this? Anything that came up?
On replacement for a sewer lateral, does an ADU trigger the inspection and replacement for a sewer lateral?
Yeah, the wastewater district will want to be informed, and you will need to get a permit through them for any ADU connections.
Thank you.
Al, just to further that, the ADU is required to have a separate sewer lateral. You cannot run the sewer lateral from an ADU under the existing residence. So you can't connect to the not under or uphill of the house. It would have to connect around the building on the downhill side.
Yeah, connect on the downhill side. So if you had an ADU in the rear and your property sloping downhill, you would have to come all the way around to the front of the property to connect to that lateral there.
This is a document search question. About a month ago, we were looking for existing plans of a historic home in Carmel. Plans came up. We do not know if the architect is still alive. If we can't find that answer, what we did was we uncovered construction documents in the file. We printed them, and they came out basically completely blurry. So I'm assuming maybe that was intentional, that until we get permission to print, or when they scanned all these prints, did they just do it all low res? It was we couldn't read it.
So there's no protection such as that in our GIS system.
Okay.
We require that when you submit plans to us, you have to show a release letter from the previous architect or designer. Like you said, if they passed away, what we're looking for is document of your best evidence to reach them. So sometimes they'll have a state licensed architect number, and they're on the architect's board, and they have a registered phone number. Or on their plans, they'll include contact information. So we need something that demonstrates that you have made this attempt. The other thing is that our plans are generally scanned at very high quality through this service that we used. If you encountered an issue with something like blurry plans, let us know. We can look into it on our side, because how they print out might be kind of a personal system issue that you have. And if we can duplicate that error on our end, we can look into that more.
Sullivan, I have a question. On this request for inspection, are the encroachment permit final inspections included in this, or is that mainly for building?
That's more for building. This is more for building inspections.
All right, thank you.
Everybody can view them, but typically only building inspections can be scheduled. I also got a question during our break in regards to water credits. The city does not have any additional water credits, and there's no agency that I'm aware of right now that is selling water credits. In the next maybe 5-ish years, I'll use as a rough estimate, the Monterey Peninsula Water Management District is looking at a way to release water credits to different jurisdictions for different uses. But that is still a project that is in the future, and there is no hard timeline for that as of yet. Seeing no other questions, thank you all for your time, for showing up, and for being involved with the process.